Greetings and welcome back to 303. We turn now to Mr. Conrad's Unstoppable Volume, Lesson 45, The Job or the Money. And let's begin in your journals for just a moment, please, with an observation, a focus here. He says it this way: honesty is the best policy. And so we'll come to this idea at the very end of our reading. One more story from the life of Mr. Conrad, and in this case, it has something to do with his son. So let's read. In June of 2005, page 159 of the Unstoppable volume, in June of 2005, I received a phone call from Justin Flattery in Three Forks Ranch. Amazingly, little did I realize at the time that one brief phone call would take my life in a whole new direction. It would also drastically alter my son's adolescence and help him forge him into becoming a man. Hopefully the splash of that initial phone call and its ripple effect will continue to bless the two of us for years to come. Proof positive that sometimes it pays to answer your phone. At that time, Justin was guest activities director at Three Forks Ranch. Reared in Mississippi, his warm southern hospitality made you feel right at home, especially after the first hi, y'all. Justin was in a bind. He needed a fly fishing guide to assist with a large group that was coming in that next week. He got a tip from one of their instructors that I had guided for several summers at a private ranch in Meeker, Colorado. When the call came in, I was in the middle of designing a garage and addition I wanted to build onto our house. Guiding fly fishing was the last thing on my mind. Initially, I told Justin no thanks. He asked me to reconsider and think about it. I asked him when he needed an answer, and he told me by noon that day. I assured him I would let him know before noon. As I hung up the phone, I was trying to think of a polite way to tell Justin no thanks again. Luckily, that's when fate and my wife Vicky intervened. Vicky suggested that I mention our son Colton as a possibility to help guide. Hearing fishing stories and guiding experiences from Dad at an early age was the culprit. Colton thought he might enjoy guiding. I called Justin right back with an offer he couldn't refuse. Justin, I said, I'll make you a 2-for-1 deal. I'll bring my 15-year-old son Colton along as an apprentice. You can have 2 guides for the price of 1. Justin said he would have to clear that offer with Jay Linderman, the general manager of the entire Three Forks operation. The last thing Jay needed was another headache. A 15-year-old with no professional guiding experience, now that would be, or could be, a problem. But once again, fate intervened. Jay said it was okay. During our 5 days of guiding, I gradually let Colton work with the guests. He took to it well, like a fish to water. He was able to carry on conversations with the adults. Frequently, he'd make them laugh. And just as importantly, they'd catch some fish, some big ones. Several of his guests made the Three Forks Ranch 25-inch club. These are trout that measure 25 inches or longer. The guest receives a plaque and their name is added to the list of other fishermen who caught 25 inchers. This list, which includes the guide's name, is proudly displayed in the Three Forks River Rock Lodge. River Rock Lodge sits in the middle of 200,000 pristine deeded acres and another 50,000 BLM acres. The Three Forks of the Little Snake River converge on the property, hence the name Three Forks. This is the site of the most extensive and expensive stream restoration in the United States. Millions of dollars were spent to improve over 16 miles of river. At the end of our 5-day stint, Colton and I returned home. I told him not many 15-year-olds get to go to a place like that, much less work there. I was getting ready to scrapbook that memory in my mind as one great father-son experience. When the phone rang, it was Justin calling again. Craig, would you and Colton like to guide Bobby Knight, the famous basketball coach? We couldn't pass it up. Back to Three Forks we went. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending upon how you look at it, Coach didn't show up. Once again, fate intervened. Because Coach Knight wasn't there, we got to guide Jay Linderman's relatives. Colton and I split them into 2 different groups. He took one group, I took the other. They all caught their first trout ever on a fly rod. They went back and told Jay all about it. They did it. We were in. Justin asked if we could stay for 9 more days. We stayed. Before our 9 days were over, Justin called me into his office. He wanted to speak to me about Colton. My initial reaction had me wondering, uh-oh, what did Colton do? I couldn't believe it when Justin asked me if he could hire Colton for the rest of the summer. Wow. What happened during that season would test the mettle of any 15-year-old. Colton was working with Larry Henderson, one of the senior guides. Larry and his wife Jean operated the Hidden Valley House. Jane cooked 5-star meals, and Larry was an excellent guide with a lifetime of experience. Colton and Larry guided Roger, a very wealthy man, and his wife Ann. Colton helped Ann catch a 25-incher. She received a plaque and her name was added to the list. Roger was so pleased that he left a $6,000 tip. That's right, $6,000. The tip policy at Three Forks requires that all tips go into a pool, then they're split among all of the guides who worked that week. So all the guides were going to benefit from this. But Roger wasn't done. He then wrote a check for $600 to Colton as a separate tip. Colton was the only one who could cash it. When Colton initially received his bonus tip, he was really excited and he was also confused. He wasn't sure what to do. Knowing the tip policy at Three Forks, he thought he should turn it in. However, Roger was adamant that Colton be the sole recipient. Colton asked me, "Dad, what should I do?" Interestingly enough, nearly 100% of those I tell this story to say they would keep the money. And of course, all of my students said the same thing, keep the money. Well, I knew that was the wrong answer. Knowing my advice would be hard to swallow, I set Colton down. "Son," I began, "try to remember this advice the rest of your life. The job is more important than the money." I'll read it again. It's such an important concept. The job is more important than the money. I went on to explain that if he continued to work at Three Forks, he would make a lot more than the $600 tip. Turning it in would be the right thing to do. "Give it to Jay and Justin and let them decide how to handle it," I said. The next day, Colton walked into the office at Three Forks and handed his check over to the boss. Now the total amount of Roger's tip was $6,600. Each guide's take was over $600. Jay and Justin let Colton keep his check and made up the difference with yet another check. Not only that, they hired him for 30 more guide days. The next year, Colton was hired for 60 guide days. Let's do the math here. That's 90 guide days at $200 a day plus tips. Tip average is around $100 a day. That's approximately $300 a day or $27,000 total. Which would you rather have? $600 or $27,000? The job really is more important than the money, and honesty is the best policy. Jay Linderman told me 1 year later, if Colton would have kept the check, he would have been done here. Colton not only secured his job, best of all, he also kept his reputation intact. Exactly the same lesson I wanted the kids to understand the day they tried to zap the CSAP. And then finally, again, honesty is the best policy, Mr. Conrad says. Let's pause for a moment in our journals and just make some quick observations about this reading. Notice the first one. Stay true to your word. Even, we would say, or especially when it's hard or it hurts to do it. Hypercritical to hear this message in this story. When the temptation is to break your word, to kind of go a little unethical, stay true to who you are, and in the end, of course, it's going to be important for your identity. Secondly, it's funny, this story says it, right? Things always have a way of working out. Never forget that. Things always have a way of somehow finding their penultimate end. And finally, of course, the problem with lying. I've said this often to my seniors. The problem with lying, the problem with cheating is simply this. You can't trust yourself so easily the next time. And you struggle to trust other people as well. I once said this to a group of seniors and it blew their mind. Here's the problem with sneaking out at night while your parents don't know and going and doing crazy. Someday the odds are you're going to be a parent. And when your daughter or son says, I'm going to stay at a friend's house, your first thought will be, they're lying to me. Here's why, you lied. Making it impossible to be so easily trusting of your own child, who, of course, you're going to want to trust. But in the back of your mind, it's going to be, well, I don't know, I was a pretty good liar and I got away with it. I wonder if that's what my kid is doing, I better be suspicious. And you'll have a weaker relationship with your own child. Whoa. If you are an individual who has violated the trust of another adult, before you graduate, walk up to them and apologize and say, I was wrong and I shouldn't have done it. And of course later when you are a parent and you're asked, well, didn't you ever lie to your parents? You can say, I did. And before I graduated, I apologized. Because it was the wrong thing to do, and here's why. Someday, honey, you got to grow up and be a parent. And you want to be able to love and trust your own kid. And you can't do that if you were a liar when you were a kid. Because in the back of your mind, it's always there. What an interesting idea. That is to say, try to live your life in such a way that you're always honest and you have integrity. So that, for example, if the teacher were to give you the test and hand you the key and say, don't look at it, you wouldn't look at it. You wouldn't even look at it. Because, think about this. Why would somebody do that? Because someday you're going to own a business. And you're going to have to hire somebody. And they're going to have to handle your money. And you want to be able to trust them. And if you're a cheater, your first thoughts will always be, I don't know if I can trust them. Your relationship with your workers will not be healthy. Very interesting idea. Mr. Conrad is throwing a concept at you that's very demanding. But if you're going to be honest first with yourself, then you've got to be honest with other people. And if you have lied to people, if you have cheated, why not go and apologize and say, I was wrong, I did it, I can't undo it, but I'm not going to do it again. And I want to tell you that. That way later in your life when people challenge you and say, well, dude, didn't you ever lie or cheat? You can say, I did. But I apologize because it was the wrong thing to do. What an interesting concept. Well, there you go. Mr. Conrad, another word picture to challenge you. Thank you.